Greetings, Dapplings, and welcome to a channel update for the 22nd of June 2015. I've no idea how long this one is going to be, as there's an awful lot to talk about, but I talk fast generally, so we might be alright. Though, as a bit of a foreword, this is going to be something of a stream of consciousness update, so be prepared for a little bit of distraction, maybe a little bit of rambling. This is not scripted in any way, so forewarned is forearmed. Let's start with the obvious one though. 50,000 subscribers and 10 million. Count them. No, don't. It'll take you forever. 10 million video views. More than that, in fact. We're nigh on 55,000 subs at this point. And I can't even begin to describe how happy and shocked I am by the idea that this many people regularly watch my videos. It's not the numbers, though, that are hard to imagine. We deal with numbers every day. Some of us more than others, but we all deal with numbers every day. And I don't think that many of us would struggle with the concept of 50,000 anymore. But when you try to imagine that many people, not just numbers, but the people that those numbers represent, that many faces, that many voices, it's pretty overwhelming and still growing, in fact. And it's not just me anymore. I mean, I make the videos, but at this point, the Dapplings have become much more than a group of people who watch those videos. It's a community on its own right, and with its own quirks and nuances, and it's also got its own momentum carrying it forward at this point, helping it evolve and change to better fit the people who are joining it every day. It's humbling to be a part of something this big, and especially something this friendly. I feel so ridiculously proud every time someone comments on the fact that our community is so welcoming and inclusive, and you should feel proud too. I know I may say this a lot, but you'd probably be surprised how often people send me these sorts of comments, and not just viewers or people who are a part of the Dapplings, but outside influencers, game developers comment on it quite frequently, in fact, and that's kind of... it's weird, man. It's weird in a really, really interesting and good and wow, thank you so much for even noticing, but just wow sort of way. So, first and foremost, give yourselves a pat on the back, if you can reach. Because you're as much a part of this now as I am, and no less deserving of praise for all the work you're putting into making this community as awesome as it is. Thank you so, so much. But what of the channel around which the community was founded? Well, no doubt you've noticed some shifts in the currents here and there, not least of which how frequently I've been uploading videos. I've been experimenting, I guess you could say. In most cases, just as a natural consequence of socializing more with other Let's Players, and receiving advice and suggestions, both from Let's Players and from the comments. Some of it fits well, I really like it, the other parts not so much. We're all different, after all, and many of us have different goals with regards to Let's Playing as a whole, so one size rarely fits all with this sort of thing. But in general, the channel has been going from strength to strength, and as a direct result of that, some may be interested in knowing that I've decided to dial back my studies a bit in order to focus on the channel for the next year or so, I think. Although my lifestyle and personal philosophy regarding plans and expectations, that is, I have few, if any, about more or less anything at all, whilst they make these sorts of decisions easier, it still took me a little bit of time to decide if I wanted to do this or not. Mostly because I actually really enjoy my studies. Hard not to, really. Learning about the very concept of this thing we call intelligence, cutting it open, seeing how it works on the inside, and trying to ponder ways we can replicate it, or replace it, improve it, even. Harder, better, faster, stronger. What's not to enjoy? But, I mean, I enjoy learning anyway. I have a ravenous, perhaps some would say gluttonous hunger for knowledge, but this topic especially fascinates me. So perhaps it says quite a lot about how much I enjoy Let's Playing and my time with the Dapplings that I've chosen to put my studies on hold for now. It was a decision that needed to be made though, one way or another. Increasingly I found the natural current of my life drawing me deeper and deeper into YouTube, leaving less and less time for revision and assignments. it was probably reaching a point where one would sooner or later start to negatively affect the other. So rather than let that happen, I chose to be proactive about it rather than reactive. Again, I've never felt that studying should be a means to an end. That is, that the goal should be a job and that studying is simply a way of getting qualifications in order to get that job. I study because I'm interested in what I'm learning. And fortunately for me, I live in a country where the costs of higher education is minimal or nothing at all. So I have a spattering of qualifications in all sorts of disciplines, some of them for no other reason than I was idly curious about the topic. So before anyone worries that this might be an irresponsible life choice, allow me to assuage your fears. It wasn't a particularly responsible life choice to begin with. Though, I'll almost certainly return to my studies, perhaps at a slower pace than before, or maybe after a year of putting all my effort into YouTube, I'll be satisfied with seeing how far I could take it, and with curiosity well fed, return full-time to my studies. Who knows? I certainly don't, and in fact, I'd probably enjoy my life much less if I did know these sorts of things in advance. So yes, studies are on hold for now. I'm pouring my full attention into my channel at the moment and enjoying riding this wave, seeing which shore it'll wash me up onto. I'll decide what to do next when I get there, and wow, that was an awful lot of talking about me. Surprisingly, some people have actually been asking me to do that more often of late, not sure why, but I hope that sated your curiosity for now, at least regarding the what I do bit. Though, I suppose I should actually add on to that, I don't work outside of YouTube. Some people ask, in fact quite a lot of people ask, what do I do? Now that my studies are taking a back seat, this is officially what I do, both in general and as a way to earn money. Although that last bit only since like December last year. I guess I am now what you would call a YouTuber. Not that I wasn't before, but this kind of makes it official, I suppose. But let's come back to my upload schedule, if you can call it that, for a little bit. Or a while. Maybe a long while, actually. It's kind of an important point. So here we go. It's been changing a lot, as I've been exploring new ways of recording, editing, and generally doing what I do. Much of it heavily influenced by the advice of other Let's Players, as I mentioned earlier. At some points, I've uploaded as much as 6 videos a day, and while that certainly was fantastic for allowing me to make progress through numerous active series I have ongoing, it necessitated some changes in how I record my videos, or specifically how I edited them. In a nutshell, my videos tended towards a 20-minute length, rather than the 30 that they used to, and typically a minimum of editing was involved. Of course, I still tidied up the audio, added an intro and outro fade so that the video didn't simply start and end abruptly, but there was far less cutting going on. That is, removing things like travel time or periods of low activity and etc. This was great for my overall productivity. It meant that far more of the time I spent recording translated directly into uploadable video footage, which meant more videos on the whole. For those who are curious, typically, unless you're playing an action-packed game where there's always something new, something novel going on, then there will be periods of time where you're just doing things in the game that are either rehashing over old ground, such as walking between 2 locations you've already visited, or waiting for something noteworthy to happen. When actively seeking to cut these periods of downtime out, a 40-minute recording session can end up with only 20 minutes of usable video, or in the more extreme cases, and management or simulation games are especially bad for this, and yes, I am looking squarely at you, Dwarf Fortress of Nomoria. It can get to the point where I'll be recording for 3 hours to get just 30 minutes of video. Just one episode out of 3 hours. So even before we get to the actual editing process, where I need to then watch the video through in order to isolate and cut out the downtime, I'm already behind, in a way. Editing itself usually takes anything between 10 minutes to upward of half an hour, and then rendering will, at best, take as long as the video is to complete, or more commonly anywhere from about 1.5 times to 2 times as long as the video's final runtime. Now, it all adds up, very quickly in fact. One video doesn't just represent 20 to 30 minutes of production time, but instead closer to an hour at best to several hours at worst. So you can see how producing 6 videos whilst maintaining the normal level of editing would be, well, quite draining, honestly. Still, despite the obvious benefits to producing frequent videos, being able to progress multiple series daily, having fresh videos going up every few hours, and the obvious bump in views, which in turn bumps the search engine optimization of the video, meaning more people find it showing up in their recommended video feeds or search results, that sort of thing, it started to feel as though something important, but really difficult to put my finger on, was getting lost along the way. My videos started feeling manufactured, as though they were just popping off a conveyor belt, and while that certainly wasn't the case, especially with my collab videos where banter and general shenanigans were plentiful even in short, unedited videos, it somehow still felt as though something personal had been lost. Now, perhaps that's just the way of things, and I'm being naive for thinking it's avoidable as a channel my size continues to grow, but I'm not ready to accept that. Not yet, anyway. I mean, to draw on a lesson from my childhood, flashback incoming, my parents kept a lot of animals. Hundreds, in fact. It took hours, literally about 3 hours a night, or more sometimes, to feed and water all of them. There were, of course, numerous automatic methods for doing this, especially filling water bottles, and my siblings and I would often ask about getting them installed, usually around the time that my parents would go off to an agricultural fair for the weekend and we were left to do the feeding and watering instead. But my parents flatly refused. And their reason was, if the animals were being cared for automatically, it would remove the need for my parents to interact with them. They could take a break if they were busy or just not feeling up to it. They'd begin to lose touch with them as a result. Each of the hundreds of pets we had were named. They had personalities. We could recognize them as much by how they acted as by the color of their fur. My parents would often realize that one of them might be ill long before any physical symptoms arose, simply because they'd noticed a change in their personality. Perhaps they wouldn't be as interested in their food or wouldn't be as quick to rush to the front of the hutch to greet them as they walked by. They could do that because they were personally invested in the animals. They knew them well. They spent a lot of time with them, taking care of them, and taking any of that time away with an automated system, regardless how efficient, would steal away some of that personal connection. The more automated something becomes, the less invested we are with it. It's a lesson I've kept with me, and it applies to everything. Let's Playing started as a hobby, a labour of love, and I was very passionate and enthusiastic about it. And while it has transitioned into my work, and it has, let me be honest about that, as subtle as the transition has been, and as little income as YouTube generates for a channel this size, it's becoming responsible for paying an increasingly large share of my cost of living expenses. Once I realized that if YouTube closed tomorrow, I'd have a rough few weeks or months of adjustment to make without the money it provides, there could be no denying that it had become more than just a hobby. But despite all that, despite the transition, I firmly resist the idea that I should feel any less excited about it or passionate about what I do. It may now be my job, quote unquote, sorry for hitting the mic there, but I still enjoy it as though it were my hobby, and long may it continue to be the case. And yes, I hit the mic because I was doing air quotes, even though you can't see what I'm doing. So, in a long meandering stream of consciousness way, what I'm trying to say is that while I appreciate the increased views that come from uploading more videos, and the ease by which I can make them, and they can be recorded and prepared if less editing is done, I feel as though through all of this experimentation, I've come about full circle, and I'm settling back towards longer, less frequent videos where I not only spend a few hours tweaking and polishing, but actually enjoy the opportunity to refine my craft. I mean, why do something if you're not going to try to do it to the very best of your ability? Though, as one might expect, this does affect streams too, not just my regular recorded videos. There was a time when I'd upload anything I'd streamed more as a convenience than anything else, but I did experiment with the idea that I could use streams to play the games that tend to involve the greatest time investment. No Moria, for example, an ongoing series, and probably one of the last I'll record this way. I would stream it, I'd then package it up and upload it onto YouTube with a minimum of editing. It's fun. I actually like the distractions and random discussions I get to have with my viewers while we wait for things to progress in the game. It's a very different medium, and it has its own pros and cons. It feels like having your friends around for a night of gaming, and just one person's in the driver's seat, and just everyone's talking about the game or not, and just you're all chatting and growing closer. This is an integral part of what it is to have a community. But I don't think that's a good fit for YouTube, or at least not my channel. So while I'll continue with my No Moria series and continue uploading it, I'll likely be editing the stream footage a bit, and once that series is concluded, I probably won't start another in this particular way of recording. Those streams will still continue, of course, and I may well continue streaming these sorts of games. Again, I really find that they fit well with a sort of friendly atmosphere and a bit of banter to fill the downtime. I just won't be doing it with a view to uploading it to YouTube as a series, as I've done with No Moria and Dwarf Fortress before it. And, well, I've spent a lot of time discussing that point, and it's hard to know how to really describe a conclusion like this that's born mostly of tiny observations over weeks and months of experimentation, and where some of the most important contributing factors to the conclusion are like nebulous feelings. I do ramble on, I know, and I hope you find that endearing, or at least not frustrating. But it was an important point, and it was an important realization for me, so it's kind of been on my mind a bit. But in conclusion, I've been experimenting a lot with how many videos I upload a day and how much time I spend editing them, and despite the obvious pros for recording more, editing less, and uploading more frequently, not least of which are more views, which translates to better earnings, and also higher search engine optimization, which results in a stronger channel growth, I'm a freak and I don't care about all of that stupidly important stuff that I really should care about if I want to be quote-unquote successful. I care about being happy and feeling engaged with what I do, and about watching the moon's reflection shatter on rolling waves, and what I'll name my ferrets when I get them, and all sorts of other things that have nothing at all to do with analytics and numbers and all of the other stuff that decides the fate of humanity. So I'm going to let things settle back to where they want to be, which seems to be more or less frequent uploads with much more heavily edited footage, trying to distill and concentrate the raw awesomeness as much as possible. I'll still pursue collabs wherever I can, and I'll enjoy the experience thoroughly. And that may mean that some series will be recorded differently than others, videos may be shorter and less edited, or even longer and more so. Who knows? Again, I certainly don't, and I don't want to. Life's more fun that way. Now, having touched a little on the topic of search engine optimization, or SEO, allow me to explain a little bit of what that actually means, as a few people have asked, either in relation to hearing other people talking about how important it is for a channel, or generally trying to give me advice on how to work with it better than I currently do, that is to say, not very much at all. SEO is responsible for deciding which videos YouTube will list and in which order when someone searches for a topic, or which videos appear in the recommended bar down the side of the player, etc. That's a pretty simplistic way to explain it, but for our needs it'll do. It governs how likely YouTube is to suggest any particular video or channel to someone who seems interested in related content. And as you can imagine, it's pretty important from the perspective of growing a channel's audience. There are numerous ways to enhance your SEO, from the tags that you use in your videos, to the way you name your videos, to whether you include closed caption and subtitles. It all plays together in a pretty intricate way, but possibly some of the most obvious, though ironically not better understood than any of the others, ways to improve it is for people to be engaged with the video. Now, what I mean about engaging, well, without a way to read people's minds and measure their emotional investment in what they're watching, YouTube instead tries to measure engagement by how long you watch a video, whether you subscribe to that channel, if you click the like button or comment on the video. And again, these things can interact in pretty intricate ways, but as a general rule, the more you do to show that you enjoyed the video, the better its SEO ranking, and incidentally, the more likely you'll be of being notified of future videos for this type, or from the same YouTuber. Being subscribed doesn't necessarily guarantee you'll receive updates on all of their new videos, or at least not as much as people suspect. But for the most part, while I understand how this sort of thing works, It's actually very closely tied to some of the areas of AI that I was studying, as it happens. I try my best not to get bogged down in, well, the numbers and analytics. All these things, and SEO included, can really suck the fun out of Let's Playing very, very quickly. But in terms of it being a source of income, it would be naive to the point of being foolish to ignore them completely. Still, that said, I've always felt that if one of my viewers liked a video, they know how to express that. They don't need me to explain it to them or ask in every video that they leave a like, fave, and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. That always felt as though it would be an insult to their intelligence, or worse, in some cases. And yet, of late, talking with other YouTubers, and more importantly, with conversations with some of the Dapplings, I've come to realize that perhaps I was being a little bit harsh coming to that conclusion. Several people have mentioned that because of the way that they have little time in the week to watch my videos, they enjoy spending an hour or two on the weekend watching several episodes in a series back to back. As a result, because they let the videos just play one after the other through a playlist, they have explained that it's not uncommon to forget to like each individual video through the playlist and only think about it at the end of the viewing session as a whole. They've suggested that when they watch other YouTubers who sign off by mentioning likes or subscriptions, it serves more as a reminder for them than a request. I'm still not sure where I stand on the whole thing, but I can appreciate that there's likely more to it than I assumed. As a mere reminder, the whole practice does make sense, but the jury remains out on whether I'll ever take to issuing the same sort of reminders in my videos. Nevertheless, enough people have mentioned it of late that I thought I'd sum up my thoughts on the whole thing, slight though this summary has been, and also try to explain a little bit about SEO while I was at it. But as we've spoken about streams a little and upload schedules, this would be a good place to mention the second part of this video's title. I'm going on holiday! I'm excited for this, as it has been about 2 years, or 3 years, maybe even 4 years, since the last time I did anything holiday-like. For the curious, I'm going to Center Parks in the Lake District for a week, and I'm going to be completely cut off from the internet, more or less. This means that for this week, running up to my leaving, which will be this Friday, I'm probably going to be uploading a little less than normal, as I'm going to try and work on building up a backlog of footage that can be scheduled to go live over the following week while I'm away. If I do get access to the net, I'll answer as many comments as I can, and messages and emails and all of that, but it will be much less than normal. Do, by all means, still comment and message me, and I'll reply to as many as I can, and when I get back from holiday, which will be the following Friday. Obviously, I'll be away on Saturday and next Thursday, so no streams then, and probably no stream this Thursday either, since again, I'm going to be working on trying to build up a backlog, so I'll probably use that time to record instead of stream. And whether I stream on the following Saturday, that is the Saturday after I come back, is all down to how much recovery time I need to get over being dragged out into the big wide world, where I'll be expected to be sociable and have fun and relax and eat lots and drink lots and maybe indulge in a light bit of romance. You know, all of the holiday kind of stuff that we are meant to do. So to recap the dates, I'll be away from Friday the 26th to Friday the 3rd. I may sneak online at an internet cafe to say hello in the comments or in emails whilst being assaulted by the aroma of coffee, so don't blame me if it's Dark Avak who's responding to your comments. I will do my best, but I can't control what the aroma of fine coffees will do to me. But during the next 2 weeks, and perhaps a few days afterwards as well, expect my uploads to be a little lighter than usual. And finally, on to a few of the smaller updatey things before we wrap up. This has been a long update video already. Firstly, you can expect a return of the First Taste series, though slightly updated for the way that I like to record videos. The focus will still be on showcasing a game rather than playing it from start to finish, but rather than limit myself to a single video or two, I'll instead be going for more of a mini-series feel. I'll likely upload a few episodes, like 3 or 4 from each game I play, enough to give a good taste of what the game has to offer without getting buckled in for yet another ongoing series, because I have so many of them. I really do need to thin them out. However, Should there be sufficient interest, and assuming I'm having a lot of fun with the game, then it is possible the game may return for a full series at some time, or simply continue for a bit longer than normal. Though, on the discussion about likes, that would probably be one of the best places to use the system the way I assume it was intended to be used. That is, as a means for me to gauge how much people are enjoying a series and whether I should consider making it a more permanent fixture, or at the very least consider streaming it or revisiting it at some point in the future. Next, concerning community games, with Ark, I've had an incredibly fun time playing alongside the Dapplings. Enough that I'd be interested in doing this sort of thing a bit more often. Perhaps we'll see this happening much more often in streams than recorded series for YouTube, but I'd love to hear what people think about more community games. Be they survival games like Ark, team games like Robocraft and games of that ilk, or entirely different things like Cards Against Humanity, Civilization, etc. Do let me know in the comments below. And going hand in hand with the idea of community games, we also have a TeamSpeak 3 server. It's seen a lot of use already for Ark, but everyone is welcome to jump on, whether it be for idle chit-chat amongst the Dapplings or to organise games. The server details are available in the announcement section on the Steam group, though when you first log in, you will need to be validated by one of the admins before you can move between rooms or talk. But we'll be creating additional rooms as and when needed to accommodate the Dapplings' shifting interest in games. However, if you do need a specific room made for a game or just to organise things better, if there are lots of people in the lobby, for example, then do let one of the admins know or post on the Steam group forums and I'll see what I can do. And lastly, but certainly not least, and in no small part due to the fact that this video has taken so long for me to record, or vlog I guess, because I'm just talking to my mic whilst with a plan of overlaying some game footage behind it so there's something to watch. But I am going to endeavour to try and do update videos like this a little bit more frequently. I'm fairly certain I've said that in almost every update video I've ever done, and I have failed consistently. So don't put any faith in that. Certainly don't hold your breath, otherwise you will probably die unless you don't breathe, in which case I'm not sure what to say about you. But with regards to the update videos, I will actually try to aim for like one a month, just even if there isn't like a big thing that's been on my mind to discuss or anything like that, just to recap on what's happened with the channel, what games are on the horizon, which ones have been finished, that sort of thing. And hopefully that will prevent these update videos getting so gargantuan like this one has. But on that note, we are finally wrapping up. Thank you so much, all of you who have made it this far, who have listened to me blather on for nearly 28 minutes. You have phenomenal endurance, and I salute you. Or not, because I'm not actually saluting. I can't. No. All right, then. There, I've actually saluted you. You still don't know. I could have been lying, but I trust that you would trust me. I haven't been on the coffee today, so there's no reason you should suspect any kind of shenanigans like that. But we are going to be wrapping this one up. So again, thank you very much for putting up with me rambling on about whatever crossed my mind whilst I was just going through a short list of little points that I had to discuss. And I hope it has been insightful, perhaps even entertaining at times, and hopefully we'll be able to talk again like this soon, and not in several months' time when I have another 30 minutes worth of stuff to discuss. But that is it from me, so thank you very much for listening and your patience, and until next time we meet, do take care.